This was a really funny moment where Elon Musk basically glitched when asked about Zohran Mamdani. Last time he was on the Joe Rogan Experience, I forgot to bring this up. Here it
Mamdani is a charismatic swindler. I mean, you got to hand it to him. Like he can light up a stage, but he has just been a swindler his entire life.
What else has he done that makes him a swindler?
This is awesome. This is awesome. He's like, okay, what's up? What's up? What has he done?
Well, I guess if you say what I mean, if you say to any audience whatever that audience wants to hear, instead of having a consistent message, I would say that is a swindly thing to do. Yeah. Yeah. But he is charismatic.
That's awesome. Thank you, Elon. You did it. Great take. Everyone does that. What he said doesn't make any sense. You can argue Trump does it regularly. I mean, Elon does it too. It's just he doesn't do a good job at it because he's not very charismatic. Yeah, notable whom Mamdani did and didn't include for the cover photo shoot of this inner circle. Peak Isaac Dover here, fatuous, vague, slimy, and innuendo-laden is right. Anyway, speaking of which... my haters will be the painters at the threshold of success. City Hall getting the legally required landlord special, a fresh coat of paint before the new renter comes in. First they came for the billionaires, says Matthew Iglesias. It's time to take a bold stance in defense of America's off-maligned billionaire class. Oh, wow. Matty Iglesias wrote an article defending billionaires. Let me tell you how shocked I am. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Wow, not satire. Of course not satire. This is, I mean, if this is a fork found in the kitchen moment, brother, what are you talking about? Of course he did a billionaire defense video, or a billionaire defense article, sorry. That's what he does. It feels a little absurd to write a pro-billionaire post or do takes like not all billionaires, or say that some of the billionaires I've met over the years have been very thoughtful and perceptive people. I guess I don't really think that the anti-billionaire demagoguery is going to get out of hand and lead to blood in the streets and orgies of destruction. But I do see people working themselves up. Not about the details of tax policy or the regulation of any particular business, but about billionaires in general. And I think it's emotionally and intellectually unhealthy. There's nothing wrong with starting a business. There's nothing wrong with a business being successful. And it happens to be the case that if you start a business and it is very successful, you will end up with a net worth that is north of $1 billion. If you can pull that off, good for you. Yeah, no, totally normal accumulation of wealth, by the way. That just happens to anybody. This level of wealth accumulation is not an indication, a clear-cut indication that the system is completely definitely not a problem that is worthy of repair. Popularism is the only way forward, except when it comes to defending billionaires. Is almost too on the nose here. Oh, that's such a good take from Adam Carlson. Because remember, Mr. Popularist, Mr. Popularist and Mr. Abundist, they love talking about like finding the most popular positions, but except for two things, I guess now. One was Israel. Never care about what the polls are saying about Israel. Never care about what the polls are saying about healthcare, and never care about what the polls are saying about taking an anti-billionaire stance. Speaking of billionaires, there's also some TikTok drama that is heating up about one billionaire. Okay, not Beyonce. There's a TikTok drama on Becca Bloom. Okay, too bad. I really hate being wrong. Otherwise, I would look to Matt Iglesias' career as aspirational. Yeah, apparently there's a TikToker named Becca Bloom. Okay, hold on. Let me find it. I think Ugopnik covered it, or at least like briefly mentioned it. Becca Blue or Becca Bloom? I can relate more to a jungle macaque smelling his own ass than I can to these people. The soullessness behind their eyes doesn't make me pity them. The contrary, their vapid, empty greed has rendered them fully subhuman to me. Species traitor, doing all they can to differentiate themselves from the filthy masses from fellow man. Well, be careful what you wish for, I guess. For the man eats what he does not consider his own. And we're all so hungry, he writes. And the reason why he's saying this is because Becca Bloom, this person, okay, has apparently been a very beloved aristocrat on TikTok that is showing people how to be rich the right way.
Things about us that might surprise you. I started TikTok to make my cat go viral, but I'm actually secretly allergic to him.
Sometimes we fly to Japan to go to a fish auction.
Okay, they're coy.
There's still fish to the birds that eat them.
I have crippling anxiety and OCD. In high school, I locked myself in the bathroom for 8 hours doing math problems.
But she scored almost perfect in the National Math Olympiad. Contrary to what you might see on Becca's stories, we're actually in bed by like 9 p.m. every night.
When we've had a bad day, we'll drive through the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Macog, is that some deep cut rare racism? No, Ugopnik is. I understand why you would think that because he's a Balkan man, but no, I think he's just saying that like an animal, I have more in common with a wild animal than I do with a billionaire.
Screaming into the forest. Sorry if you live in any of these places.
I have over 150,000 open follow requests on my Instagram profile, and I really appreciate the interest, but I'm sorry, folks, I can't get to it.
Things about us that might surprise you.
So I guess a lot of you touch grass and don't know who this is. I'm so proud of you. So for context, she's a billionaire Nepo baby and arguably the greatest normalizer of billionaires on the planet Earth and should be treated as such. She gets 10 million plus views and 1 million plus likes per video. So no, it's not an overreaction. So the reason why this is like, the reason why he hit this line is because as of late, for the first time ever, from what I understand, Becca Bloom turned around and made a TikTok where she actually talked about something that is not wrong. She talked about the gender pay gap and the gender disparity that exists. Okay. And it's interesting because as soon as she brought up the word equality in her first ever video, people realized, hold on, you're a billionaire. The f do you mean equality? Someone actually responded to Becca Bloom. Oh,
yeah, but you have servants, Becca.
Here. Someone actually responded to Becca Bloom saying, hey, sis, I'm all in favor of equality. Would you like to, give your family's billions of dollars to some of us or something like that, right? And now I love this personally because it's one of those things where it's like, if you're a billionaire, what the f are you doing on TikTok? What are you doing on TikTok? Why the f are you trying to talk to the unwashed masses? Like, if you do that, eventually they're going to say, hey, give me the money then, dickhead. I mean, seriously, accessibility is one of the worst things that you want as a billionaire. Okay. I like that we move from Matt Iglesias defending billionaires to this. Okay. Like, there's no reason for you to chase clout. You can literally unlock whatever kind of experiences that you want to have all around the world. Okay. And as a matter of fact, I think in the olden days, billionaires knew that. Obviously, the internet was not around in the olden days as well, so that's probably what made it a little bit easier, but they did everything. The ivory tower is supposed to be inaccessible, okay? The ivory tower is supposed to be removed from access from the unwashed pores, okay? Old rich used to be silent. New rich, they want admiration. This entire segment you're about to do is going to get clipped because you have a house. Yes, I know. The irony is that people have no capacity to distinguish between a Twitch streamer who purchased a house for himself and his family, who, yes, is fortunate, incredibly privileged, incredibly fortunate that I have amassed a level of not only fame, but also wealth that many people will not actually experience. Okay? That's the problem. That is the issue. And people will turn around and be like, says you, which is insane when you are talking about a billionaire, and you will never understand this difference. I am someone who has to literally go live to make my money, okay? I don't have the money in the market. I don't have capital accumulation. If I stop streaming tomorrow, it's over. I could take the money and put it in the market if I wanted to. I choose not to. This is how I make my living, okay? She doesn't have to. She has a ton of money in the market already. So yeah, shouts out to the chatters for subscribing, even though you don't need to. That allows me to purchase this house for myself and my family. But yes, compared to someone like Becca Bloom, or compared to like the actual movers and shakers in society, someone like myself, the wealth that I have is a rounding error. And not only that, but someone even like Billie Eilish, who has a ton more, right? Who has a ton more than even I do, right? Think about that. You're like, I'm the wealthiest person you've ever fucking seen in your life, right? Not the case, but even then, her wealth is a rounding error, right? For Becca Bloom, you don't have to do TikTok. You don't have to seek out validation. You're a billionaire. If people were to turn around and say the same thing about myself, sure, you're right. And maybe one day I'll just off into the sunset, okay? But for the time being, that's not the day. I'm stubborn as and I'm going to keep fighting for all the shit that I believe in, whether or not I have $30,000, whether or not I have however much money I have, okay? Hasan, you passed me on the street when I was homeless in LA in 2019. You just averted your gaze as I begged you for $1. Okay, 2020 Toyota Corolla. In any case, the point I'm trying to make is this. She don't need the validation. This is what I do for a living, if you want to make this comparison, right? And I eat the mile-long dick on a daily basis from chatters who go, well, hold on, you're accessible too, just like she is, right? She's advocating for her class, and a capitalist is doing propaganda for the rich. She's doing something that is objectively positive for her class before this controversy. Exactly. I'm advocating against what people perceive as my class interest because they think I'm a part of the billionaire class. But I won't stop doing that regardless of how much you yell at me.
Becca Bloom. You have servants and you're pushing a false idea of feminism, and that's why it's a legitimate question. So Becca Bloom made a video talking about what men don't understand about equality, particularly in the dating world. And the video is fine. She talks about how 50-50 isn't actually 50-50 because women earn 80% of what men make, how women have to spend more on beauty and grooming, and how women are more likely to experience violence on a date, which is all fine. And she ends by saying, men only remember the word equality when it benefits them financially. Equality isn't identical treatment. Equality is balanced responsibility. And until society becomes statistically equal, you cannot cherry pick equality only in moments where it allows you to contribute less. And again, all that's fine and great. But then my mutual on here, Bridge on Film, who has a great account, everyone should follow her, made a video of her typing a comment that said, can we keep this energy for equality by asking your billionaire family to distribute their wealth for equality? Which I loved and thought was a great question because Bloom comes from an obscenely rich family and got mega famous in part via her Gatsby-like ostentatious displays of wealth. That video, as of me making this, has about 1,600 views, but what did Bloom do?
I think the appropriate thing for a billionaire to do is not even to just like take all the money that they have and redistribute it, because I think that's also a dumb way to try and tackle this conversation, but to use all of the power that they have, all of the network that they have to try and actively eradicate billionaires in general. And I don't mean by force. I don't mean by like killing them or some shit like that. I just mean like changing the system for the better. Okay? You have tremendous wealth. You have tremendous power. Use it for good. Use it for privilege. Use your privilege for good. Become a class trader. That is what I invite all of the super wealthy to do. Obviously, they won't do that. I'm just saying that is probably a more appropriate way to deal with this issue rather than simply being like, oh, this one billionaire is going to give away all their money. You're absolutely wrong. A billionaire should go. No, I'm saying in order to effectively eliminate the concept of billionaires, I think I would rather have these people involve themselves in the exact opposite way that they're involving themselves in the systems. It's never going to happen, of course. It's never going to happen. Let's be real. It is against their class position. It's against their class interest. But that would be probably a more successful, more viable way to eradicate billionaires in general. Okay? Someone wants to give the DSA a Gundam. Do you understand? Because the reality of the matter is, the way that the system is designed currently is that it is propped up by so many billionaires that even one singular billionaire giving away all of their wealth would not even be able to put a dent in it. Okay? That's just it. That's just the unfortunate reality of how horrifying the wealth disparity has become. Although these people are so unimaginably wealthy that one singular person's distribution of their wealth could potentially change a lot of people's lives, you know, like an entire area, you know, eradicate homelessness in one area if they wanted to, they chose to do so. Okay. Charity will not actually eradicate poverty. If that was a real thing, then charity would have eradicated poverty by now. There are plenty of people who do voluntary contributions, plenty of wealthy people that engage in philanthropic endeavors. This does not actually put a dent in the problems. As a matter of fact, it sometimes worsens those problems. Okay?
The comment disappeared, she may have deleted it even, and Bloom literally went into Bridges' comments and accused her of cyberbullying. But again, you have servants, Becca Bloom. It sounds neat to have a chef that prepares your meals at home. I wouldn't know. But consider what that job means versus how your family made its fortune in the business world. As many of your commenters pointed out and you liked, there's a difference between equality and equity. The reason you're able to spend tens of thousands of dollars on Hermes shopping sprees, and so generously share that experience with us, is because our society has, as feminist scholar Nancy Fraser puts it, quote, the institutionalized separation of two supposedly distinct kinds of activity. On the one hand, so-called productive labor, historically associated with men and remunerated by wages. On the other hand, caring activities, often historically unpaid and still performed mainly by women.
There was another guy who also had a statement on this, okay? Even though the wokes will say this was actually somewhat patriarchal or misogynistic, new wave liberal feminism will obviously have a take on this, but it's abolishing the bourgeois family structure, because a lot of the caregiving labor that is reproductive labor that is necessary for the labor force to continue growing, all of the work that goes into caretaking, caregiving is actually never realized, never acknowledged, and also never fairly compensated.
What that means is that your parents, and therefore you, are able to access and acquire vast amounts of equity while your servants are not. Software is a kind of reproducible industrialization, and capitalism means that the vast majority of rewards go to the owners of the means of production for making it. Let's say it takes 1,000 hours of labor for your parents to make a piece of software, and it takes your servants 1,000 hours of labor to do domestic work. After those 1,000 hours, your parents might have a business that strikes gold, and they get massive returns. Unless your servants make their own company, they're not going to be able to do that. But also, the type of domestic labor that you use is inherently not reproducible. Someone needs to make those dumplings that you get to brag about eating at 4 a.m. The way that we've set up our economic system, in other words, is exactly how Fraser describes it. Your family gets to be worth 800 million times as much as your servants, which I'm sure both of us would agree is not actually representative of your value to society versus them. I hope we agree on that, no offense. People seem to enjoy your stuff and more power to you and them, but come on. Not 800 million or a billion times worth, surely. Now, you're a woman and your chef might be a dude, but disproportionately, this division of economic reward means that men generally have access to accrue capital way more than women, since men generally engage in economic behavior that our society arbitrarily calls productive, and women disproportionately engage in behavior that our society arbitrarily calls caring. More than the 80% wage gap, it's actually this much more disproportionate capital gap that affects women's ability to have dignity, agency, and ease in their life, all of which I genuinely believe both of us want women to have. As Fraser writes, quote, this gendered hierarchical division between production and reproduction is a defining structure of capitalist society and a deep source of the gender asymmetries hardwired in it. There can be no emancipation of women so long as the structure remains intact. Which is why Bridges' question is so relevant, because feminism without class consciousness is not a feminism for all, because there's also a racial component to this. Again, as Fraser writes, the trouble is this feminism is focused on encouraging educated middle-class women to lean in and crack the glass ceiling. By definition, then, its beneficiaries can only be women of the professional managerial class, like you. In absent structural changes in capitalist society, those women can only benefit by leaning on others, by offloading their own care work and housework onto low-wage, precarious workers, typically racialized and or immigrant women. So this is not in...
Is there a difference between her and Bill Ackman? Come on, Haas. Yeah, no, there is. I mean, I don't know how she made her money. I don't know how her family made the money. I don't know anything about her. I just know that she's a billionaire. And what I do know is that she's a billionaire who is accessible. She's a billionaire who is seeking out people's praise. And when you do that, especially as a billionaire, you're gonna inevitably have people question your unimaginable amounts of wealth. It's that simple. People do that to me. I'm nobody. You know what I mean? I'm nothing. How can people atone people no matter seek validation, no matter income? What do you mean? Same thing happened to Mark Cuban. Yeah, of course it happened to Mark Cuban. No matter what, there's always, if you are accessible and you're wealthier than the average person, people are going to be like, well, says you, bitch, you're living a life of privilege. But this is not about the trials and tribulations of being an endlessly fortunate person that is seeking out validation on the internet or being accessible on the internet. Okay, the point is, you cannot have equality without, you cannot have real equality, as she was suggesting, through simple liberal feminism. You must advocate for and you must actually advance socialism. That's it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what your financial status is. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you are in society. If you're a millionaire, thousandaire, doesn't matter at all. Remember when Mark Cuban came on that Twitch event with Austin, wild couple of years? Yeah.
Cannot be a feminism for all women. In other words, not only do we give vastly fewer economic rewards under capitalism to women, we also give vastly fewer economic rewards to minorities, especially immigrants. And all this is completely arbitrary. We don't have to set up our society like this. And we shouldn't. I think the type of domestic labor that your servants do is just as difficult and valuable as anything your family's ever done. And anyone who has or has had a family member who's worked as a nurse or cook or cleaner will agree. But lastly, the reason you should think about Bridges' question is because you brought it up. As you said, quote, quote, you cannot cherry pick equality only in moments where it allows you to contribute less. Just as that means I shouldn't ignore the privileges I have of being white and cis and so on, you shouldn't cherry pick your outrageous privilege as a billionaire that can afford to have servants. Because doing that is, I believe, kind of truly corrosive to your soul. And that's my theory behind why you felt the need, as a billionaire creator with 4.8 million followers, to go into a video with 1,600 views and accuse them of cyberbullying you. And since I'm a movie channel, the movie I recommend to you so you can understand why I think you did that is the movie Sallow by Pier Paolo Pasolini.
What the fuck?
It's an adaptation of the Marquis de Sade novel set in fascist Italy in the 40s, and the thing it communicates above all else is what having that much economic and political power does to people. It makes you want to further control and exploit people. On some deep soul level, I think every rich person like you understands that their ability to exist they do rely—
Bro said, watch Sallow. That's crazy. He was like, yeah, you should watch that. He's trying to punish her. This is a trick. Becca Bloom, don't do it.
on crimes against someone somewhere. You're an heir, so you may not be totally aware of the specifics of your case, but it's absolutely true what Balzac said. Behind every great fortune, there is a crime. Like, not only are you defending the circumstances that allow you to spend $50,000 on shopping sprees, but you also want us not to criticize you. It feels like you want to control not only other people's economic existence, but also how we think and feel about you, which is corrosive to your soul. It should be enough for you to be happy with your $800 million and your 4 a.m. dumplings and your shopping sprees and whatever else. The fact that you immediately dismissed Bridges' comments out of hand and how you responded to her is kind of proof of this. The way you even phrased it, saying, quote, if you knew even a fraction about me or my family, this question wouldn't have made it out of your drafts, is kind of a vaguely fascistic insinuation that you have access to some objective truth that Bridge doesn't. You may—
Okay, he's hyper woke too. This bro hates dumplings, and this is the woker, okay? No, I think she's just basically saying you don't know me. Not implying that she has access as a wealthy person to some like objective truth or anything. I think she was just trying to deflect and trying to imply that like she's overcome great trial and tribulations. I really like this guy though.
own a lot more money than the rest of us, but you don't own reality, which is why Bridges' response was much more telling of a soul properly aligned with the common good of the world. She wants to have a discussion with you, which I think you should do, if you have the time.
Anyway, I'd say he hates you too, but he's American, so probably not. No one did this woke. No one this woke as an American wearing a cowboy hat is going to have that kind of smoke for me. Let's be real. Come on now. We were going to talk about the gay thing. Well, not clavicular, but that's a different gay thing. But let's watch this clip. Apparently he was talking about—
would Charlie Kirk have gotten assassinated if he were Chad? Well, probably not, and here's why. Good-looking people experience something called the halo effect, so it's quite possible that if Charlie were to be better looking, someone wouldn't have hated him enough to assassinate him. What happened to him is quite terrible, and this might be an insensitive video to make, but I'm really trying to bring awareness to how brutal the black pill is. Looks really are going to determine the quality of your life to a high degree, so if you're not doing everything you can to maximize them, you're missing out.
Brother, what the— that's crazy. Dude, oh my God. Dude, I'm bringing awareness to how chopped this man was. Yeah, hey guys, this might come across as insensitive, but the guy who was shot in front of the entire planet basically was shot because he was chopped. He was so ugly, he was killed for his ugliness, which is crazy. You would think this is like peak satire, except he is dead ass, okay? He is not even remotely kidding. That's the craziest part about it. He is as serious as a heart attack. Wow. Charlie Kirk was assassinated because he didn't mog hard enough. A real mogger would have been able to mog the bullet. Are they all collectively trolling now? Nick Fuentes goes all in on voting for Newsom over Vance in 2028 because he's handsome. I actually don't know what the f they're doing.